It was January 2017, and I was 22 years old, sitting in a holding cell in upstate New York. I'd made a stupid mistake, a bar fight that got out of hand. The judge set my bail at $5,000, which I didn't have, so I was transferred to the county jail to wait for my court date. 30 days? Maybe less. That's what I told myself. The jail was old, built in the 1970s, with cinder block walls painted puke green and rusted steel bunk beds. The lights in the hallway never turned off completely, but inside the cells, they dimmed to a dull orange at 10 p.m. That's when the real jail started. I was placed in cell block C, which held about 24 inmates split into 2-man cells. My cellmate was a guy named Marcus, quiet, kept to himself, read a paperback Bible every night. He was in for trespassing, harmless. The first 3 nights were boring. Loud snoring, guys shouting across the tiers, the clang of metal doors. But on night 4, everything changed. I woke up at exactly 2:30 a.m. I don't know why, but I just opened my eyes. The orange light flickered outside. Marcus was asleep in the bottom bunk. I was on top, and then I heard it. A whisper. It came from the cell directly to my left. Cell 4B. The whisper was low, fast, like someone muttering in a language I didn't recognize. I pressed my ear against the cold wall. The voice stopped, then started again, right next to my ear, as if the person was inside my cell. I looked around. Marcus was still asleep. The door was locked. I was alone. But the whisper continued. It said one word over and over. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I thought maybe I was dreaming. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, opened them. The whisper was gone. But now there was a scratching sound coming from inside the wall. Not rats. This was rhythmic, deliberate, like fingernails carving letters into the concrete. The next morning, I asked Marcus if he heard anything at night. He looked up from his Bible and said, "I don't sleep after midnight. Haven't since I got here." Then he went back to reading. That creeped me out more than the whisper. I asked the inmate in cell 4B, a skinny guy named Derek, who was in for theft. I said, "Hey, were you whispering last night?" He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. He said, "Man, I was asleep by 10, and my cellmate's been in solitary for 3 days. I'm alone in there." That night, I decided to stay awake. I sat on my bunk with my back against the wall. At 2:30 a.m., on the dot, the whispering started again. But this time it was louder, and it wasn't just one voice. It was multiple voices. Men, women, even a child's voice, all whispering at the same time. They were saying different things, but the only word I could make out was my name. Matthew. I froze. Nobody in that jail knew my first name. I went by my last name like everyone else. The voices got faster, angrier. The scratching on the wall turned into pounding. I jumped off the bunk and started banging on my cell door, screaming for the CO. A guard named Officer Riley came running with a flashlight. "What's your problem?" he said. "There's something in the wall. People whispering, pounding." He shone his light into my cell. Nothing. He listened. Silence. He sighed and said, "Get back in bed. Next time you wake me up for nothing, you get written up." But as he turned to leave, his flashlight swept across the wall. For half a second, I saw something written in the dust on the cinder blocks. Words I hadn't noticed before. 3 words. We never left. I didn't sleep for the next 2 weeks. Every night at 2:30, the whispers returned. I told the chaplain. He went pale and said, "That block used to be the death row holding area in the 80s. 7 men died in those cells. One of them was named Matthew." I got released on bail 3 days later. But sometimes, even now, when I wake up at 2:30 in the morning in my own apartment, I swear I can still hear the whispering, and it's getting closer. My name's David, and this happened in 2019 at a county jail in southern Missouri. I was a correctional officer for about 4 years. I've seen fights, overdoses, even a stabbing, but nothing prepared me for what I saw on night shift in the max security wing. The jail had a pod layout, circular with 2 tiers of cells around a common area. Showers were individual stalls with opaque plastic doors. Inmates got 10 minutes for a shower, and they were always supervised. But at night, from midnight to 4 a.m., the showers were off limits. The water was shut off. The lights in the shower area were turned off. No one was supposed to be in there. But in March of 2019, the night shift COS started hearing things. My partner, a guy named Tom, told me he'd hear water running at 2 a.m. He'd check the panel. Water valves were closed. He'd walk to the shower area. The floor would be bone dry, but the sound of water hitting tile was unmistakable. On March 17th, Tom called in sick. I was alone on that pod. At 1:45 a.m., I did my rounds. Everything normal. Inmates asleep, lights dim. I sat at the desk and drank my coffee. Then, at exactly 2 a.m., I heard it. Drip, drip, drip. Not running water, just a slow, steady dripping, coming from the shower area. I grabbed my flashlight and my radio and walked down the corridor. The door to the shower room was closed. It should have been locked, but it was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The room was pitch black. I hit the light switch. Nothing. The bulbs were dead. I shone my flashlight across the room. 8 shower stalls, all empty. The floors were dry. The drains were clean. But the dripping continued. It was coming from stall number 4. I walked toward it. The plastic curtain was drawn shut. I could see a silhouette behind it. Tall, broad shoulders, but the shape was wrong. The head was tilted too far to the side. The arms hung too low. I said, "This area is off limits. Identify yourself." The dripping stopped. The silhouette didn't move. I radioed the control center. No answer. I tried again. Static. I pulled out my taser and grabbed the edge of the shower curtain. I yanked it open. Nothing. The stall was empty, but the walls were wet. Not from water, from something dark and thick. And written on the tile, in what looked like finger-painted blood, were the words, "You're next." I ran out of that room so fast I slipped and fell in the corridor. I got to the desk and called the sergeant. He came down with 2 other COs. We went back together. The shower room lights worked now. The walls were clean. The curtain was open. No blood, no writing, no dripping. But when we checked the logbook from the previous night, there was an entry from Tom that he hadn't mentioned to me. It said, 2:15 a.m., inmate in shower stall 4, no ID, refused to leave. Opened curtain, no one there, requesting transfer out of pod C. Tom quit the next week. I lasted another month. But every night on that pod, between 2 and 3 a.m., I'd hear the dripping. And sometimes, when I walked past the shower room, I'd see the silhouette again, standing just behind the plastic curtain, waiting. The last time I worked that shift, I heard the dripping coming from my own bathroom at home. I moved 2 states away. But last week, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of water running in my kitchen sink. The faucet was off, the pipes were dry, and standing in the corner of my kitchen, just out of the light, was a tall figure with its head tilted too far to the side. I don't work nights anymore. I don't even turn on my shower past midnight. And if you ever hear dripping when it shouldn't be there, don't open the curtain. Just run.